Daniel, do you see any change in the attitudes of the students that come in front of you about, whether ideas of you can embed, you can embed social responsibility and trust into a brand, and that becomes a form of protecting intellectual property, or is there a completely different attitude from the generation of students that you now see going in front of you?
I think there's an increasing degree of sophistication. So in law school, we teach students the difference between law and norms, right? The norms is basically the perceived standard of behavior, and the law is whatever Congress says it is, I suppose. But the theory there is that if there's a gap between the two, you can try to close it with education. You can close it by changing the law, but if you have a high gap, enforcement will be more costly, and eventually the law itself will lose some respect. The rule of law might. Now that's a phenomenon I was observing a few years ago. Now the students are asking different questions. They're asking, okay, you're telling me I can't download. It's not available legally. I can do this. I want to do this, right? And that's a harder question than it's on iTunes for 99 cents. You want it for free. That's cheating. And for them, those are the kind of questions they're starting to ask. A second question, much more interesting, that came up actually at the debate last week at Vanderbilt was, who gets the money? I actually care who gets paid in this. Is the songwriter getting paid if I download music? And if not, that actually will inform my decision whether I can pay. So we've empowered people in a way to make those calls and as to how they want to comply. And of course, it's driving people who have to figure out the enforcement equation and the business equation and the consumer relations. As Victoria was saying, this is hard, that you have to take so many factors into account. But I see an increasing degree of sophistication in answering the questions that each person answers. The last thing I'll say is that I always ask my students, so my casebook that I use for my class is available free, but there's a suggested price of $30. And I always ask at the beginning, anonymously, who paid? I use clickers. And every year the percentage goes up of students who actually paid the $30. And I don't know if that's a trend. It's an anecdotal. I can't, say but it's a group of 100 students more or less, and it's very interesting. I'm seeing the number go up every year.